App State rallies late. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz with another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Excuse me. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I swear I just took a drink right before I read that. What can you do? All right, a good episode for you today. We'll talk about App State here in a moment. No Grayson McCall, no problem for Coastal Carolina. Almost embarrassing, if not truly embarrassing for Marshall, but give it up to Coastal. Also, it was good to see Grayson McCall. Saw someone posted a picture of Grayson taking a picture with a young fan, and he seemed to be in good spirits. At least he was smiling for the picture. So good on Grayson McCall. Hopefully he's going to be okay. And Arkansas State, despite being a 9.5-point favorite and will need some help, they're in this race for the Sun Belt West Division. But let's start off with this App State ball game, and what a game it was. I was sitting in the South Alabama press box with Kevin Foote, the Ragin Cajuns beat writer for The Advocate. Matt Sullivan, one of the SIDs for the Ragin Cajuns, was sitting there, and we're following this App State Southern Miss ball game, via, the web, and it was a 7-7 ball game, and then Southern Miss takes control, a 17-point second quarter to go up 24-14 at half. All right. App State closes the gap to 3 at the end of the third quarter, by the end of the third quarter. But then right at the beginning of the fourth quarter, Southern Miss takes a 10-point lead. 14 minutes to go, 38-28. Somehow App scores 3 touchdowns and wins the ball game by 10. And a lot. So you read these plays after Jacarius Caston, an 11-yard run for Southern Miss, makes it a 10-point game. Christian Horn, 49-yard pass, Joy Aguilar, touchdown. Kanye Roberts, 61-yard run for App, touchdown. And then Christian Horn, 21-yard pass from Aguilar, touchdown at the end of the ballgame. So no, Nate Noel, 3 plays, 8 yards. He's still banged up. He got hurt on the first play against Coastal Carolina, and then inadvertently the App State social media team put a picture of, the end of the first quarter score, whatever it was, and his ankle was turned the wrong way. The only play he had all night. We hope he gets better soon. So you read that and you hear the Christian Horn touchdown pass, or touchdown catch, 49 yards. Kanye Roberts, 61-yard touchdown run, and Christian Horn, 20-yard touchdown catch from Joey Aguilar. And you're like, where's the defense? Where's the defense? Where's the defense? But I would say I go the other way. Where's the offense? Southern Miss had a bunch of yards and a bunch of points, and they couldn't seem to put any up at the end of the ballgame. So after the Christian Horn 49-yard pass to from Joey Aguilar, they went 5 plays and out. Then you hand the ball right back to App State, and Kanye Roberts, 61-yard touchdown run. It's not like their defense for Southern Miss was on the field very long. One drive was 2:22, and the other one was 1:23. So then Southern Miss actually has a really nice drive. They get all the way down to the App State 30-yard line, but they're down by 4, so a field goal does no good, and it's a 47-yard field goal. So they decide to go for it, and instead of maybe running Frank Gore, who had 247 yards, they tried to pass it, and incomplete, and that was the end of the ball game, unfortunately, for the Fighting Will Halls. But I can only imagine what the App State fans are going through. And I don't want to make excuses. I don't think that. Probably a little bit more understanding. They've had 2 field goal losses and a loss to Carolina. The ODU loss is tough. It's It's a touchdown loss in the Oyster Bowl, which I still get a kick out of. That's probably not something App State is. But this is my question for all of these fans that some of these teams are struggling with. You know who has good tradition? JMU. You know who has a lot of tradition? App State. You know who has good tradition? Georgia Southern. You know who has a lot of good tradition? Marshall. They all can't win at the same time. Someone's got to be on the opposite end of those wins, right? So Georgia State's having a good year this year. Georgia Southern took care of them this past season or this past week. But, ODU is having a better year than expected. Right on the other hand, Texas State all of a sudden has won some ball games this year. 5. And they are looking to go to a bowl game for the first time ever. Arkansas State all of a sudden has won 4 games. They're 2-2 in the Sun Belt, right? You can't have not every one of these good teams with these good traditions can win, right? The Ragin Cajuns, again, we've talked about this, right? The Ragin Cajuns have had like 3 bad years since 2011. And last year was one of them, and they went to a bowl game, right? Right now, the Cajuns are staring 8-4 right in the face. They should go 8-4. They should beat Arkansas State. We'll get to that. They should beat Southern Miss, and they should beat ULM. They'll probably lose to Troy. It's a really good season. They have a couple of disappointing losses, Georgia State and ODU, but give those other teams credit. Actually, Georgia State makes a heck of a play. I'm still not over that play. Gavin Pringle, here's to you, kid. That was an outstanding interception. But the Cajuns had 1st and goal against ODU and couldn't put it in the end zone. So they could be a little bit better, but, and they're doing it with a backup freshman quarterback. 8-4 is a good season. All right. Do Cajun fans want a little bit more? Okay. Right now, Troy seems to have the Sun Belt in good shape. But so what do you do when, we expect championships. We expect to be the best. All right. It's got to go in a little bit of a circular motion, right? I mean, still, and Ryan Aguilar's played very well this year. All right. Joy Aguilar. Sorry, I just combined both quarterbacks. Joy Aguilar has played very well this year. It's still the backup quarterback, and no Nate Noel for the last 3 ball games. And they're 1-2 in those ball games. Now, again, I'm not a excuses guy. Excuses is, we struggled in the rain. That's excuses. It's raining for them as well. All right. It's too hot. That's excuses. All right. We arrived an hour late. That's an excuse. What's not an excuse? We're injured. Well, nobody wants to hear it. I understand that. It sounds like an excuse, but it's not. Those are reasons. There's a reason that one quarterback is starting over the other, usually better. Well, we have, 60% of our offensive line is banged up. Well, that's a reason, not an excuse. So I like Sean Clark. I think he's done a pretty good job this year. Pulled one out of his backside on Saturday against Southern Miss. Not having their best year, obviously. We'll see what happens, okay? We'll see what happens. Again, you're playing with your backup quarterback, who's been the starter for most of the season. I get it. And you're playing with a backup running backs who eventually got the job done. So we shall see where this goes. It's very difficult when everybody thinks they have this tradition and everybody's expecting to win. Everybody can't win. Not all the time. Can't happen. Can't work that way. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll talk about Coastal's win over Marshall, or Marshall's disappointing loss to Coastal Carolina. My goodness, they were actually favored on the road, and this game was not close. All right, let's tell you a little bit about our friends at Gametime. A little bit more organized these days. Let's see if that is true. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you'll know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Locked on College for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt. Your team every day. Let's talk about what happened with Coastal Carolina and Marshall. Again, Marshall was actually a 4-point favorite going into this ballgame. Cam Fancher was replaced and then brought back in. So Cam Fancher wasn't playing well. He was 11 for 22 with 2 interceptions. They brought in Cole Pennington. He wasn't much better, 12 and 23 with 2 interceptions. All right. Jarrett Guest certainly played better. He was 14 to 20, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. They kind of ran it as a group, 40 carries, 145 yards, not particularly well, 3.6 yard average, right? Ethan Vasco actually led Coastal with 37 yards. Guest ran for 36 on 3 carries. Reese White, 11 carries, 33 yards. No one ran it particularly well, but Marshall kept on turning the ball over. That's the problem. And Coastal, built a nice lead in the first quarter, 10-0, first quarter, 10-0. They got it up to, 27-3 in the second quarter, and no one did much of anything in the second half. The season has gone down the tubes for the Marshall Thundering Herd. They started 4-0, and we noticed some issues with the defense against Old Dominion. They came to shoot themselves in the foot with NC State, giving up 48 points. A penalty cost them a chance of winning Georgia State. They couldn't move the ball at all without Rasheen Ali against JMU. And probably their most embarrassing loss in maybe a long time was to Coastal Carolina, 34-6. There are some rumblings. I don't know why there's some rumblings about Charles Huff. I would not have any rumblings. Again, still breaking in a young quarterback. Those are, think about that. That is a gauntlet, okay? NC State on the road, at Georgia State, they're good. James Madison, second best team in the Sun Belt. And Coastal Carolina on the road. Unfortunately, that was with a backup quarterback, and you did the one thing you couldn't do was start throwing it away. Let me see if we can look a little bit at that play-by-play. Because, just take the JMU win over Marshall. They weren't trying to be anything fancy, right? He being Kurt Signetti, they weren't going to get too aggressive. They couldn't move the football. So Coastal kicks a field goal. Marshall misses a field goal. How long was that field goal? So they missed a 49-yard field goal to try and tie it up. And then 5 plays later, Coastal has a touchdown. Marshall punted, Coastal with a field goal. Marshall punts, then they get on the scoreboard with a field goal, makes it 13-3, but then the defense can't stop them. And it's a 20-3 ball game, and then you're starting to throw the ball away, and that's when the turnover started. And so really disappointing season for Marshall. You start off 4-0. You look like, you could challenge in the East, and you've gone 0-4 since. Yeesh. So not very good at all. As Marshall drops to 4-4, as we mentioned, and give it up to Coastal Carolina. I don't know if we've had an update on Grayson McCall. I'll have to look on that. It seemed like it was a little bit more serious than a concussion. So they were starting to get second opinions, I thought, last week. So we'll find out more if Grayson is going to play again this year. Coastal has coming up, I think, they got Old Dominion. That's an interesting ballgame. All right, because if we go over these standings, all of a sudden Coastal Carolina, who was on the bottom of the East, is now in the thick of things. All right. Remember, for the time being, for the time being, right now, James Madison can't win it. So being 2 games behind James Madison doesn't mean anything. There's Georgia State and Georgia Southern. Coastal, by the way, lost to both of them. So they're going to need some help. They're going to need Georgia State to lose at least one more game, and they're going to need Georgia Southern to lose 2 more games if they're going to compete. So, but give Tim Beck credit, give Coastal Carolina credit. You can start to mail these things in. We'll see what South looks like here over the next few games, right? They got Troy in a short week. They got to go to Texas State at the end of the year. This is a little adversity that, to be honest with you, Kane Womack hadn't faced yet. They had some injuries at the end of the first season, but they got a little adversity here in year 3 with South Alabama. And so give it up. You could mail it in if you're Coastal Carolina, because now you're really not competing, but all of a sudden you're right back in the race. Now you need some help. You do get James Madison, and don't think that Coastal Carolina isn't licking their chops at that ball game at the end of the year. They got routed by JMU last year to win the East. Don't think for a second that's not going to happen. They're at Old Dominion. They get Texas State at home, at Army. Yeesh. Coastal Carolina is going to upstate New York in November, bringing the Long Johns. And then they finish up with James Madison right after Thanksgiving. So, they got stuff to play for. Don't think they don't. They could ruin JMU's season right at the end, and that is in Conway. Don't think they won't remember what happened last year. It is interesting to hear the Ragin Cajuns talk about games that happened last year. So if they're talking about it, you can believe that Coastal Carolina remembers ball games from last year as well. All right, let's take another timeout. When we come back, Arkansas State, Cajuns foe this week, they're in the Sun Belt West race. Butch Jones and the guys have turned it around. Let's talk a little bit about FanDuel. There we go. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We are waiting for the outcome of this Monday Night Football game. We got a little bit riding on the Lions covering. All right. So we're looking forward to that. Not going quite the way that I thought, but it may be going good enough. We got a little bit of time to finish up. Okay. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's talk about these Arkansas State Red Wolves. We talk about Marshall, the season getting off to a great start. The season could not have gotten off to a worse start if you're Arkansas State. They were allergic to the touchdown, right? You go to a doctor, new doctor, you got any allergies we need to know about? Well, Arkansas State would have answered, yes, the end zone. It was 110-3. Oklahoma's one thing, Memphis is another. They started to turn things around against Stony Brook. That's when Jalen Rayner came in. Then they upended what we thought was a really good defensive Southern Miss team and put up 44 points against them. Massachusetts, although record-wise not great, they put up 52 points on the road at UMass. They took one on the chin at Troy, battled Coastal, lost by 10 to Coastal, and they beat Monroe. Rayner is 3-rephrase that. Arkansas State is 3-2 since Rayner has come in. And I believe Jalen Rayner is an absolutely true freshman. This is year number 1. You don't see that very often anywhere, right? When Winston and Manziel are winning Heismans, they were redshirt freshmen. Or Manziel may have been. Yeah, Manziel may have been. Same thing. They had already spent a year on campus. Rayner throwing under 60%. He's got over 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's all in basically 5 ball games. He's been, again, not the most accurate cat. Against Southern Miss in his first start, 11-21, but 3 touchdowns. Against UMass was very good, 20-25, almost 400 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. In a loss to Troy, 15-27, no touchdowns or interceptions. In the loss to Coastal, 19-35 for 300 yards, a couple of touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and only 50% against ULM, but 300 yards, 15-30 for 298 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He's also ran in 3 scores, and he's also run for almost 300 yards, 271. Jalen Rayner has made a huge difference for Arkansas State. And if the Cajuns aren't careful, all right, I'm warning them, don't get cocky. You went into South Alabama and you played a heck of a ball game. If you go into Arkansas State and think same thing's going to happen because of what you just did, it won't. This is a different team than what started the season. All right. And Mike Desimo knows it. For the longest time, he's been part of this on the coaching staff and on, as a player. He's like the road team never won in this series. Difference between, was it Coastal and Georgia State where the road team always wins? Not in this one. And then it was in 2021. Cajuns were 13-1, right? And they only beat Arkansas State by 1 on one of the most incredible drives I have ever seen. This was a 1-point ball game, 28-27. And at this point in time, Arkansas State had won 1 game, and that was their first game against Central Arkansas. They lost to Memphis, Washington, Tulsa, Georgia Southern, Coastal Carolina, and these teams are putting up a bunch of points, right? Memphis put up 55, Washington 52, Tulsa 41, Georgia Southern 59, Coastal Carolina 52. Cajuns and their high-powered offense, allegedly, struggled, put up 28. Now, they could have put up a little bit more, but this is one of the all-time great drives. We talk a lot about this, right, where, well, it doesn't seem like the defense is getting the stop. The offense has to, get some first downs. The last drive of the game, unbelievable drive. The Ragin Cajuns were up by 1, got the ball with 9:57 left to go in the game. 20-play, 90-yard drive. Mr. Scared Money Don't Make Money went for it on 4th and 1 with 2 minutes left to go. Did not want to kick a field goal. Billy Napier goes for it. Montrell Johnson runs for 5 yards, ends up taking a knee. A 20-play drive from their own 6 ended on the Arkansas State 3-yard line. That's really impressive. Really impressive. So Desimo knows. The point is Desimo knows this is a tough place to play. And Arkansas State, again, is going to need some help in the West. Troy with a 3-1 lead. One of those wins is over Arkansas State. They still have, let's see what we got here. They have the Cajuns, South Alabama, Texas State, and at Marshall. So 3 of the 4 are in the West. They do get Texas State, and they are at Marshall. They're going to need some help to take down Troy, and they get the Cajuns themselves, and they get Texas State themselves. They're tied right now. They're 2-2. Troy's leading the division 3-1. Cajuns, Texas State, Arkansas State, and South are all 2-2. The Cajuns, by the way, they have the tiebreaker over Texas State and South Alabama. They're getting at Arkansas State this week. All right. Big ball game. All right. Cajuns can't take this lightly. I don't think they will, but you can't go in there all cocky. All right. And Arkansas State will shock you. It is a 2 p.m. ball game, and it is early on. I heard Mike Desimo say, I think on his talk show tonight, that he doesn't remember playing a day game in Jonesboro. That's usually at night. Usually it was in the middle of the week as well. I think it's going to be a good ball game. I think, early on, I think the Cajuns will win. I'm not sure they're going to cover. I think it'll be a, one possession, could be a 3-point ball game type of deal. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see if we can line up some guests for later in the week. We do have some good ball games coming up this week. The Battle of the Belt, Thursday, national TV. See if South Alabama can rebound, or does Troy win that again. I don't think I've ever seen South win that ball game since I moved to Mobile. Now I'm back in Lafayette, but I did not see South actually come very close to win that game at all. And I think Carlton Marshall is going to be honored in this game, so that'll be good as well. All right. Again, thanks for tuning in. You've been listening and watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.